Everyone loves the phoenix metaphor. You burn, you rise, you're reborn from the ashes. Beautiful story. Complete lie. You know what they don't tell you about phoenixes? The burning hurts like hell. The ashes don't look inspiring, they look like failure. And the rising, it's not graceful, it's messy, painful, and most days, you're not sure you're rising at all. You're just crawling through ash, wondering if this is what transformation is supposed to feel like. And yes, it is. You're not failing at recovery. You're doing it exactly right. The mess is the process. Let me show you why your brokenness isn't the end of your story. It's the middle. Right now, you're in the worst part of any story, and nobody prepared you for this. You're in the part where the hero is defeated, stripped of everything, sitting in the rubble, wondering why they ever thought they could do this in the first place. Every story has this moment, every single one. But when you're the one living it, it doesn't feel like a story. It feels like the end. It feels permanent. It feels like evidence that you were never meant for more than this. But here's what I need you to understand. The fact that you're still here, still searching for answers, still hoping there's something beyond this pain, that's not weakness. That's the most heroic thing you could possibly be doing right now. You're in the middle of your transformation, and the middle is always the hardest part because you can't see either end. You can't see where you came from anymore, and you can't see where you're going. You're just in the ash, and that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Let me tell you about a tree, not just any tree, but a sequoia. These trees live for thousands of years, 3,000 years. They survive fires, droughts, storms, diseases. They're the most resilient living things on the planet. And you know what scientists discovered about them? Their seeds won't open without fire. The cones that hold the seeds are sealed shut with resin, and that resin only melts in extreme heat. So the forest can grow for decades, for centuries, and those seeds just wait, dormant, waiting for the fire. And when the fire comes, when everything burns, when the entire forest is reduced to ash and smoke and devastation, that's when the seeds finally open. That's when new life becomes possible. The fire that destroys the old forest is the same fire that births the new one. You are that seed right now. Everything around you is burning or has already burned. Your old life, your old identity, your old certainties about who you were and what you were capable of. It's all ash, and you're interpreting that as failure, as punishment, as evidence that you were never meant for this. But what if the burning was necessary? What if you're not being destroyed? What if you're being prepared? What if the heat that's breaking you right now is the only thing strong enough to crack you open to who you're actually meant to become? See, we have this idea that growth should feel good, that transformation should be inspiring, that when we're on the right path, we'll feel energized and clear and certain. But that's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked. Every caterpillar that becomes a butterfly literally dissolves. Its body breaks down into liquid inside the cocoon. If that caterpillar had consciousness, it would think it was dying. It would think everything was ending. It wouldn't know it was reorganizing. It wouldn't know that the dissolution was necessary for the wings. You're dissolving right now. Everything you thought was solid is liquid. Everything you thought was permanent is temporary. Everything you thought defined you is being questioned. And that feels like death because, in a way, it is. The old you is dying. The version of you that believed certain things about yourself, about the world, about what's possible and what isn't. That version is being burned away. And it hurts. God, it hurts. Because you've been that person for so long that you don't know who you are without those beliefs, without that identity, without that story you've been telling yourself about your life. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is critical. You are not the story. You are the storyteller. And right now, in the ash, in the breaking, in the exhaustion, You have the opportunity to tell a different story, not about who you were, about who you're becoming. And that person is being forged in this fire. That person is being created by this breaking. That person would not exist without this pain. I've worked with people at every level of success and every depth of despair, and I'll tell you something that might surprise you. The people who've achieved the most extraordinary things, the people who've created the most beautiful lives, the people who radiate the most authentic strength, they're not the ones who never broke. They're the ones who broke the hardest. They're the ones who spent time in the ash. They're the ones who know what it feels like to be so tired you can't imagine taking another step. They're the ones who questioned everything, who lost everything, who sat in the rubble and said, I don't know if I can do this. And then they did it anyway, not because they felt ready, not because they suddenly got motivated, but because they decided that staying in the ash was more painful than trying to rise. You think you're broken beyond repair? You think you've fallen too far? You think you're too tired, too damaged, too far gone? But what if those thoughts are just the last defense mechanism of the old you? What if your ego, your old identity, is trying to convince you to stay small because growth means it's death? What if the exhaustion you feel isn't your body giving up? It's your body finally saying, we can't keep living the old way. We need something different. We need truth. We need authenticity. We need to stop performing and start being. Let me tell you about another metaphor, and this one's going to land differently. Imagine a building. This building has been standing for decades. Strong foundation, solid walls. It served its purpose. People lived there. Life happened there. But over time, cracks appeared. The foundation shifted. The walls started to lean. And everyone said, we need to fix it. We need to patch the cracks. We need to reinforce the walls. And they tried. For years, they tried. Band-aids over broken infrastructure. Fresh paint over crumbling walls. But the building kept deteriorating because the foundation was wrong. It was built on unstable ground, and no amount of patching was going to fix a foundational problem. Eventually, someone said, we need to tear it down. We need to go back to the foundation and rebuild. And everyone panicked. Tear it down? But what about all the memories? What about all the time we invested? What about the fact that this building is our identity? We're the people who live in this building. If we tear it down, who are we? But here's the truth. The building wasn't serving them anymore. It was trapping them. And the courage to tear it down, to reduce it to rubble, to start from scratch with a foundation that actually works, that's not destruction. That's wisdom. You are that building. The life you built, the identity you constructed, the beliefs you've been operating from, they served you once. Maybe they kept you safe as a child. Maybe they helped you survive trauma. Maybe they were the best you could do with the information you had. But they're not serving you anymore. They're crumbling. And you've been exhausting yourself trying to patch the cracks, trying to hold it all together, trying to make it work. But it can't work. Not because you're failing, because the foundation was never yours to begin with. It was built from other people's expectations, society's definitions of success, trauma responses masquerading as personality traits. And now, it's all coming down. And you're terrified because you think you are the building. But you're not. You're the architect. And this is your chance to build something that actually fits who you are. The tiredness you feel right now, that bone-deep exhaustion that sleep doesn't touch, that's not weakness. That's your system saying, I can't maintain the structure anymore. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep performing. I need to rest so I can rebuild. But you're not letting yourself rest because you think rest is giving up. You think if you stop pushing, if you stop fighting, if you stop trying to hold it all together, everything will fall apart. But it's already falling apart. The question is, are you going to fall apart with it, or are you going to step back and let it crumble so you can build something new? Here's what nobody tells you about rock bottom, about breaking, about exhaustion this deep. It's actually a gift. I know that sounds insane right now. I know that sounds like toxic positivity from someone who doesn't understand your pain. But hear me out. When everything's working, when life is comfortable, when you're functioning, you never question the foundation. You never ask, is this actually what I want? Is this life actually mine? Am I happy or am I just comfortable? You don't ask those questions because asking them is terrifying. It means potentially having to change everything. But when life breaks you, when you're too tired to maintain the illusion, when you're too broken to keep pretending, you don't have a choice anymore. The questions come whether you want them to or not. And that's the gift. You get to rebuild consciously this time. You get to choose the foundation. You get to design a life that's actually yours instead of inheriting one by default. But here's the hard part, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Rebuilding takes time. It takes longer than the motivational quotes on Instagram suggest. It takes longer than you want it to. It's not a weekend project. It's not a 30-day challenge. It's a complete restructuring of your life, your identity, your beliefs, your patterns. And most days, it won't feel like progress. Most days, you'll feel like you're still in the rubble. Most days, you'll wonder if anything's actually changing. And that's normal. That's the process. Seeds don't sprout overnight. Buildings don't rise in a day. Phoenixes don't emerge from ash instantly. There's a gestation period. There's a waiting period. There's a period where nothing visible is happening, but everything invisible is shifting. You need to give yourself permission to be in that period. You need to stop expecting yourself to be healed by now, to be better by now, to have it all figured out by now. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're exactly where you need to be. And I know that's frustrating because you want to be further along. You want to feel better. You want to wake up one day and have the exhaustion gone, the pain resolved, the clarity restored. But that's not how transformation works. Transformation is slow. It's subtle. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's progress that's invisible until suddenly it's not. Until one day you realize you handled something differently. You responded instead of reacted. You set a boundary. You chose yourself. And that's when you know the rebuilding is working. So what do you actually do when you're in the ash? When you're too tired to try harder and too scared to give up? First, you stop fighting the process. You stop resisting the breaking. You stop treating your exhaustion like an enemy and start treating it like information. Your body is telling you something. Your soul is telling you something. The message is, we need to change direction. This path is killing us. And ignoring that message, pushing through it, trying to will your way past it, that's what's actually exhausting you. Not the breaking, the resistance to the breaking. Second, you get honest about what you're carrying that isn't yours. Write it down. Every expectation, every should, every belief about who you're supposed to be. And then ask, is this actually mine? Did I choose this or did it choose me? Am I living for me or for the approval of people who don't even know the real me? And be ruthless. This is your life. Your one irreplaceable life. You don't owe it to anyone to live it according to their script. Third, you find one thing you can control and you control it. Not everything, not your whole life. One thing. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's drinking enough water. Maybe it's stepping outside for 5 minutes. One small thing that signals to your brain, I'm still here. I'm still capable. I'm still showing up for myself, even when everything else feels impossible. That one thing becomes your anchor. And when the waves hit, when the exhaustion crashes over you again, you come back to that one thing and you do it. Not because it'll fix everything, because it reminds you that you're not helpless. You're not passive. You're still choosing. Fourth, and this is the most important one, you stop trying to do this alone. You reach out. You tell someone the truth, not the filtered version, not the I'm fine version, the real version. I'm struggling. I'm scared. I don't know if I can do this. I need help. Because isolation is what's keeping you stuck. The belief that you have to figure this out by yourself, that asking for help is weakness, that being broken means being alone. That belief is a lie. Connection is what heals. Vulnerability is what transforms. And the moment you tell the truth, you give other people permission to tell theirs. And you realize you're not alone in this. You've never been alone in this. You've just been hiding. Here's what I need you to hear, really hear. You are in the middle of your story, not the end, the middle. And the middle is always the hardest part because you're far enough in that you can't go back to who you were, but not far enough that you can see who you're becoming. You're in the liminal space, the threshold, the in-between. And it's terrifying because humans hate uncertainty. We want to know how it ends. We want to know if we're going to be okay. We want guarantees. But life doesn't work that way. You don't get to know the ending while you're living the middle. You just have to trust that if you keep showing up, if you keep being honest, if you keep choosing yourself, even when it feels impossible, the story will unfold the way it needs to. The phoenix doesn't know it's going to rise when it's burning. It just burns. The seed doesn't know it's going to become a tree when it's cracking open. It just cracks. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly when it's dissolving. It just dissolves. And you don't have to know what's coming next. You just have to stay in the process. You just have to trust that the breaking is making space for something new. You just have to believe, even when you can't see it, that the ash is fertile ground, that what looks like an ending is actually a beginning. So here's your mantra, and I want you to say this every time you feel like quitting. I am not ending. I am becoming. Say it until you believe it. I am not ending. I am becoming. Because you're not broken beyond repair. You're broken open to possibility. You're not too tired to continue. You're tired of living a life that was never yours. And that tiredness is your wake-up call. That exhaustion is your invitation. Not to quit, to transform. If this reached you, if something inside you shifted while you were listening, I need you to do something. Hit that like button. Not for me, for you, as a commitment, as a declaration that you're choosing to stay, that you're choosing to trust the process. Drop a comment and tell me one thing you're rebuilding, one piece of your foundation you're laying differently this time. And subscribe because we're in the middle together. We're in the ash together, and we're going to rise together. Not because we're strong, because we're stubborn, because we refuse to let the breaking be the end of the story. You're not done. You're just getting started. Keep going.